China is slowly losing its aura of invincibility in the South China Sea. Vietnam has become the latest country to confront Beijing's salami-slicing tactics, while the Philippines is warning China against any act of war. With the help of India and its Quad allies, more ASEAN nations are being emboldened to confront Chinese bullying. So why has Vietnam warned China? How Manila's outright rejection of demands has put it on a collision course with Xi's CCP. And amidst all this, what is India's role in the South China Sea region? Chinese military intercepts with other countries, either at sea or in the air, have increased significantly over the years. One such country which has been falling prey to Beijing's aggressive maneuvering has been Vietnam. Hanoi has been annoyed by Chinese surveillance vessels in its own exclusive economic zone. Just like Chinese spy ships have been monitored by the Indian Navy in the Indian Ocean region, Beijing has been sending its surveillance vessels into Vietnamese waters. Hanoi has now warned Beijing to cease its, quote, illegal activities. A spokesperson for the Vietnamese Foreign Ministry said, quote, Vietnam is extremely concerned and resolutely opposes and demands that China end the illegal survey activities of the Hai Yang 26 vessel within Vietnam's exclusive economic zone and continental shelf as defined by the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, unquote. But Vietnam is forgetting something quite simple. Xi's CCP simply does not respect or abide by international maritime laws. Chinese claims to the South China Sea and thus its imaginary 9-dash line have been rejected by an international tribunal. China's response was as expected, with CCP using its mouthpiece to reject the international ruling. Chinese ships continue to invade Vietnam's exclusive economic zone while harassing Vietnamese oil and gas operations. But this is nothing new. Even in 2013, a Chinese survey vessel conducted a month-long incursion in Vietnam's EEZ, and that was before the tribunal ruling. China has a sinister motivation behind using its naval might to back its sweeping claims. These are estimated to be vast reserves of 11 billion barrels of untapped oil and 190 trillion cubic feet of natural gas. Ideally, all nations in the South China Sea should have claims to these resources in their own exclusive economic zones, but China denies this. Beijing claims entirety of the region, denying its neighbors their legitimate rights under international law. Satellite imagery proves Chinese land reclamation projects in the South China Sea. China has constructed ports, military installations, deployed fighter jets on the woody island, and involved in naval reconnaissance as well. Another country which has raised its voice against Chinese military aggression is the Philippines. Speaking on the sovereignty of the disputed Second Thomas Shoal, the Philippines sent a stern clarification to China. The country's national security advisor said on the 9th of June this year that the Philippines will continue to maintain and supply its outposts without seeking permission from any other country. Now, this follows China's demand that Manila inform Beijing before accessing the islands which, under international law, belong to the Philippines. To this, Manila replied, quote, our operations are conducted within our own territorial waters and exclusive economic zone, and we will not be deterred by any foreign interference or intimidation, unquote. And rightly so. Why should any country update a foreign power while accessing its own territory? Amidst the South China Sea standoff, the Filipino President Marcos Jr. warned China against any act of war. At the recent Shangri-La dialogue, he said if any Filipino died as a result of Beijing's willful actions, Manila would consider retaliating. Despite its aggressive military posturing, China is losing hold over this region. Vietnam and Philippines both have dared to openly defy China. And this is where India steps in. While India has supplied BrahMos missiles to the Philippines, its military ties with Vietnam too are growing each year. Just last year, India gifted an active indigenously built warship, INS Kirpan, a missile corvette, to Vietnam. In 2022, during Defense Minister Rajnath Singh's visit to Vietnam, India also handed over 12 Coast Guard boats to Vietnam. Vietnamese Navy has regularly participated in the Milan naval exercise hosted by the Indian Navy. As part of the $500 million line of credit for military procurement, Vietnam is negotiating BrahMos cruise missile purchases from the Indian military. India has also offered its Akash missile air defense system, which is gaining traction after Armenia bought it to neutralize Azerbaijani threats from drones or fighter jets. India's growing alliance with Vietnam is a win-win situation. Hanoi is increasingly procuring military equipment for its armed forces, and Coast Guard from India. And with an eye on Chinese naval activities, India also activated a satellite imaging and tracking station in the country. India has also been training Vietnamese fighter pilots to fly the Sukhoi 30 jets and sailors in underwater combat operations. Vietnam is China's immediate neighbor, sharing a 1,300-kilometer-long border. After US defeat in Vietnam War in 1975, Communist Vietnam should have been China's closest ally. Instead, China declared a war on Vietnam and invaded the country in 1979 with over 220,000 troops and 27 army divisions. However, the Chinese PLA suffered a humiliating defeat at the hands of the much smaller but battle-hardened Vietnam military, which had the backing from the Soviet Union back then. Today, India and its Quad allies, especially the United States, have taken over that role in supporting smaller ASEAN nations to oppose constant Chinese bullying. But the big question is, will Xi Jinping's CCP spark a major global conflict with its aggressive policies in the Indo-Pacific? Leave a comment, hit the like button, and remember to subscribe to Inconnect News.